Welcome to Make Your Own Music Lesson 6. Today I want to show you a big idea for the left hand and a big idea for the right hand. We're starting to get into the territory here where you can take a single idea and you can make dozens and dozens and dozens of songs. You can actually develop it over months. Some of these ideas, I've run with them, and I used to challenge myself to sit down to the piano and create a new piece every single day. I actually did that for almost 10 years, and it's one of the reasons why I'm sharing this stuff with you today, because I sort of figured it out as on the fly, but over a long period of time. So the two ideas are intended to be outlines. Sometimes when you go to school, they tell you exactly what to learn, exactly what to memorize, right? And what they want you to do is they want you to put that down on a test. That's how you get the A, right? Well, this is, I'm going to give you this idea, and I want you to run with it and see what you come up on your own. So these are those kinds of ideas, all right? So what's kind of interesting about the left hand and about how chords are created, it's if you have a 3-note chord, if you take one of those 3 notes and make it different, you've actually changed the chord. So we have a G chord, and if I change the top note, that is actually a different chord. If I take this and I change the bottom note, I have a different chord. You see? So you can get to a very unique sound just by moving one note. And sometimes the little changes, it's like, I remember that from before, and now it's slightly different. Oh, that's cool. And then it's slightly different. Almost like a kaleidoscope will change gradually. It's not these abrupt changes. It's like this evolving thing, right? So you can create patterns where you make the changes at a regular place, and the change is consistent. So in Deck the Halls, for example, in this lesson, the notes go down 1, following the key. And in the song Cipher, I actually talk about that pattern. Well, if you're going to make up a song, you could do something similar. And then both go down 1, both go down 1. Right? Okay? So you can use that idea in any way that you want. It's like you change one note, you start to slide them down the keyboard. Eventually, I'll let you know what those are called, because they can be connected to a guitar chord. They're connected to the chords in the key that we're playing in, all of the theory stuff. And by the way, in the intervals and harmony section, I actually outline those if you want to take a look. A person who is creating their own music usually starts getting interested in identifying chords and writing things down so they can remember them, right? So if you play a guitar, you get used to playing the different chords, and then you create patterns. On the piano, those patterns are there, right? G chord, D chord, C chord, G chord again, D chord, right? They all have names, and you can get into that. So how would that sound if you were doing 8th notes against it? All I'm going to do, I'm just going to do up and down the notes of the scale, and I'll show you how that works out. Right? And except at the end where I change it so I could bring it to a close, I was just following along, 8th notes in the right hand, and then I was changing that pattern once every measure. And it sounds awesome. And what's cool, you know how I mentioned in 8th notes, even if you play a note that doesn't fit the chord, right? It clashes. since you're moving on, the next one is going to fit. So the ear just kind of accepts it all, right? And then in the last lesson, I mentioned how when you put in a long note, it's like the singer taking a breath, and you can even do that randomly. So you start to kind of write yourself a prescription for a song. Left hand is going to walk down, and the right hand is going to play scale notes, notes in a row, and then have long notes. That's what it's going to be. And I'm going to mess with that until it starts to smooth out. Okay? So you see? For me, the feeling of the music is what I'm kind of going for. And the particular notes, yeah, they matter. But what matters more is the feeling, right? It's kind of like taking a walk in the park. It's kind of slow, it's kind of mellow, and that's just kind of like what I love to do. What we're doing is we're bringing together your skill level on the piano with a certain kind of vibe. And for a lot of people, 3 to 6 months, somewhere in there, they really start getting comfortable playing the eighth notes and the quarters, playing long notes, changing the left hand here or there, and that sort of becomes one of their songs. And you sit down and you sort of jam new ideas, but basically in the same feel. Make sense? All right, so what's the new idea for the right hand? Well, we've learned how to cover 8 notes with the thumb under. Okay, but now we want to be able to cover more notes. And what the basic pattern is, when you're covering extra notes, I have to come down here so it shows. 1, 2, 3, then thumb under. 1, 2, 3, 4. Instead of going to the pinky finger, I'm going to bring my thumb back, and now I start over. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, thumb under. And on the way down, I have to remember, do I cross with 4 or do I cross with 3? And they alternate. So 4, 3, 4, 3. And the way I can remember that is 4 on the black note, right? Right? And it's not that big a deal if you accidentally play, out of order. You just kind of stay where you're at. But in the song I was playing before, I wanted lower notes, so I just crossed with the 3. And that happens to sit on the D chord, and that's a very strong chord in G major. So G, G major, and then D chord. Those are the 2 strongest chords, right? And if I come across with the 3, that's how that fits. All right. So by all means, do these individually. So mess with the left hand where you're changing one of the 3 notes, or taking them each down by step, so you get a sense of how that goes. Maybe come up with a pattern of your own where, say, you go through this pattern, it's 4 sets, and then you're back to the beginning. That's part of the creative part, where you're starting to change the chords, and then you create these little loops. And you'll see in the chord chart that I do that those patterns, it's 2 of this and 2 of that, 2 of this, 1 of that, and then back to the beginning, right? And it creates this thing. A lot of that comes from the blues, where it's a 12 measure pattern, and you can create your own. So you want this thing that goes on automatic pilot. Then you can bring in your right hand, and you've done your finger over and thumb under stuff, right? And you've done the scale and the echo and the jam, and you're starting to be able to pick out little bits of melodies and string them together. And then now you can move anywhere on the piano you want. 1 octave, which is 8 notes, right? Right. And then with the thumb under stuff, okay, now I have 2 octaves, goodness, and I can go even further. You can go much wider, and that just opens up your whole universe as far as what you can do on a song. So I hope you find that useful. Those 2 big ideas can carry you for a long, long time. And what we're going to do for the second half of the book, in the chapter 7, 8, and 9, we're going to do songs that are in groups of 3. So triplets, jigs, and waltzes. They're a special feel. Groups of 3 notes are felt differently. And then in lesson 10, 11, 12, we're doing 16th notes. It's a group of 4 notes under 1 beat. And with that, you are equipped to make up songs of your own, pretty much unlimited for as long as you want. And it gives you enough info that, you can find a jazz teacher, you can find a classical teacher. If you want to dig into different styles of music, a bluegrass player. I started my bluegrass background studying by ear from this Canadian fiddle player. It was very humbling because he would just like rip off this tune. He said, well, can't you pick that up? So he didn't slow it down and break it apart. I sort of learned the hard way. But it'll prepare you for almost any style of music you want to pursue. Hope you enjoyed the lesson, and we will look forward to catching up with you soon. Take care.